All right. Good evening. Welcome to a transition chat on the coordinators of community services. I'm Ann Kennedy from Baltimore County Public Schools, and I'm happy to see so many people joining us tonight. That's really great to see. I am going to, you'll see me, but I won't see you because I'm going to disappear as I turn on my slideshow, or you'll disappear from me. But we're going to go over what the coordinators of community services do, why you need them in your lives, and then we're going to let each of the agencies that are here joining with us tonight give us a little overview of their agencies, and then you can have a little time at the end to ask questions. If you are shy about asking questions, please put your question in the chat box, and we'll try to attend it to it by that way. All right. So welcome you, and here we go. All right. The role of the coordinator of community services. First of all, let me just say that this meeting tonight is especially for people who their student is eligible for DDA, but you have not been assigned a coordinator at this point. So you might get a letter in the mail that says it's time to choose an agency to do your coordination of community services. And it'll be a list of agencies, and you might not really know what that means or which agency to choose. So tonight is a chance to just sort of get familiar with each of the agencies. So the coordinators of community services usually come into your life at 18. It could be earlier, but 18 is very typical for our transitioning students. The parent gets a letter, has a list of agencies. You return the choice letter to DDA. They like it by email if you can. If you have to mail it in the mail, you can do that too. The DDA will notify a CCS agency that they've been selected, and then in short time, the CCS will contact your family and help you throughout the transition process, and that person or that agency can be with your young adult, for their life. A CCS can assess a person's wants and needs, that things that they need after school's over. They can apply for the very important funding sources for accessing services, connect you to adult services in your community. Very important part is developing a person-centered plan, which is kind of like an IEP for post-secondary students, for adults. And they assist with locating other resources beyond DDA in your community. So they're pretty important. Usually, you would start getting connected with your person, your CCS, pretty early before graduation happens, before that last year. And so they get to know you, they get to know your student, and the student and family start to visit provider agencies and make some choices about where they want to go, where they don't want to go. And it's really great if your CCS can attend the final IEP meeting, or even the final few, for a few years in a row, to really get to know the school personnel that they're going to be working with. So here are the lists of agencies that you get when you get that choice letter. And we're going to hear from representatives from these agencies tonight, and about a few minutes per speaker, and then at the end of that, you'll have a chance to talk with them. So we're going to start with we're doing alphabetical order, so that's how we're doing it. So Able Health Services, and I think we have somebody from Able to talk with us tonight.
And the slides haven't changed. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. So that's good to know. All right. You think you have something all settled, and then you don't. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm going to stop and start again. All righty. And in the meantime, you are being very patient, so thanks. All right, let's try it again. All right. They are not changing. I see what you mean.
Go to slideshow, and I think
Yeah,
at the
I did
top,
that. I did that.
and it didn't give you an option to present or from beginning or something.
Mm-mm. As many times as I've done this,
I know.
how it is. All right, hang on. Is that changing now?
No.
Gosh.
Yes. Yes. Click on the next one.
Okay, we good?
Yeah, but click on the one you're about to. Yeah, it's changing now. So click on whatever.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. So we're sorry for that delay, but here we are with ABLE Health Services. This is a CCS that is going to present now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy, and I am the program director for ABLE Health Services. We provide targeted case management services, which is the same as the CCS services. So we provide these services to coordinate support for individuals with developmental disabilities. These services are performed primarily by the coordinator of community services. So meaning that when we get assigned, or if you decide to go with ABLE Health Services and we get the referral, our program manager will go over the referral, will reach out to you, ask for your preference in terms of, the CCS, just go over like the individual's, needs, preferences, goals, and we'll be able to tailor that to assign a CCS to the individual. So once we get all that details, a coordinator of community services is assigned. We will reach out. The CCS will reach out within 24 hours of assignment. The CCS will reach out to schedule like an intake meeting, just like initial meeting, basically. So in initial meeting, getting to know you and your family, and to know, the needs, preferences, goals, and strengths of your loved ones. That way, we are able to assist the participant to have the best quality and most appropriate services and support within available resources. We also assist the participant and the family in implementing participant choice. We address participant satisfaction and assuring that the participant needs and preferences are addressed. So as a targeted case management agency, we provide participants with person-centered plan, referrals, and related activities. We do monitoring. So we have like different time frame for monitoring. Some individuals require like yearly monitoring, some are quarterly, and some are monthly. So depending on, the categories, so we're able to provide monitoring visits, which is usually in person. And this is provided at your, home or anywhere you feel more comfortable in the community. Our coordinator of community services, if there's at any point you think they're not a good fit, you're going to have an assigned program manager that the family member is able to reach out to and say, hey, this person is not working out, and we're able to assign a new CCS. I think that would be it for now. Anne already talked about, the different services that a coordinator of community service agency provide. Basically we connect you, we follow your loved ones to plan the future, and we connect with, them with different resources. It can be state or federal resources, based on their needs. So our service is tailored based on the individual's unique needs. So if you have any question later on, I'm here and I'll be able to answer your questions. Thank you.
Yes, and the slide that you didn't see before is this one, and it has the websites of each of these agencies. So we're going to move on now to the next agency that's here to talk with us is Beatrice Loving Heart.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Pritchett. I am the program supervisor here at Beatrice Loving Heart. Henna works with us. There's the nice lady that went before us has eloquently put. We are also this CCS agency. We work in all areas of Maryland, including the Eastern Shore. We assist with finding services for our folks. When they first come to us, most of them are on the waiting list. So we try to find them services or resources in their area that help them until they get they deemed ready to be put on the DDA waiver. So we're devoted and we provide first.
Hold on one second. We're getting a lot of feedback. Maybe if everybody can mute while other people are talking, it'd be better.
Jessica Reedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, can everybody please mute, or I'm going to go in and mute everybody, I guess is what I'll do. And then I know unmute. You can unmute yourself.
Great, thank you very much.
Just,
We're devoted to providing person-centered services to children, young adults, and older individuals who have the most care needs, disabilities, and related concerns. There you
okay,
go.
that seems to be better. Thanks.
We use
Sorry about
person-centered
that.
planning to ensure the delivery of person-centered supports. We are there from the beginning to for every one of our participants. Our staff answer phone calls within or return phone calls within 24 hours, emails within a few hours. We're there for our participants. We have very good customer service, and we're there to help them with whatever needs they might have.
Thank you so much. The next agency we're going to hear from is Coordinating Center. Is Kiana here tonight? So she may not be here right now, but I will let you know that the Coordinating Center is a CCS agency, but they weren't always. At one point, they were providers of REM and model waiver services. And then some years ago, they also became a DDA provider. So they are in our region. They provide good service for everybody. Sorry, I'm doing multiple things at once now. Admitting people. And if Kiana joins us later, then she can tell us more about her agency. All right, so we're going to move on to the next agency, which is Mars. And Susan Hartung is definitely here to talk about Mars.
Hi, my name is Susan Hartung, and I am the Provider Relations Specialist with Mars. I'm also the parent of 2 adults with developmental disabilities, and I always say that moving from the world of entitlement, which is school, to eligibility, which is DDA, is like learning a new language. And it's a language filled with acronyms. So I always say the CCS is your interpreter. It's a way to explain to families and parents how to navigate this new world and new language. We all know what our children's likes are and their strengths are, but sometimes matching those, whether they're disabled or not disabled, with what's available to them to pursue those can be challenging. And I think that's what a CCS is usually primarily there for. Mars is medical management rehabilitation services. We've been doing this since 1995, and we serve over 3,200 people in the state of Maryland. So we do serve the whole state. We are trying very hard to make sure our coordinators are placed geographically near the people they serve, which lets them know exactly what's available in their community. By the same token, if you have to move within the state, we don't require that you have to change coordinators for that. You can keep the same coordinator as you go. We have lots of experience with transitioning use, with crisis resolution. DDA requires CCS agencies to have physical contact with their individuals they serve every quarter. But we require that we have at least a monthly check-in, whether it's a text or a phone call, something, just to make sure everything's going okay and everybody's doing well. If you have any questions at the end, please check in with me, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. All right, we have another agency called Optimal Case Management here, and Sherwood is here to talk about them.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sherwood Schafernoff. I'm with Optimal Case Management here. One thing that separates us, I would say, is that we keep our caseloads rather on the smaller side, typically around 20 to 25, just to ensure that each person is able to kind of get the attention that they deserve while they're working through. Because there's a lot of different people, a lot of cases, typically on a CCS's caseload. So we try to keep it on the smaller side so that they can provide that level of attention. Also, our case managers are very good at staying on top of the TY timeline and ensuring that everything required is completed well ahead of schedule. So there's no risk of backups or services being delayed for any reason. We're also very adept at providing support specifically with self-directed cases. On each of our teams, there is a team member who is a self-directed expert who assists with all self-directed cases. So we're very comfortable in the world of self-directed and staying on top of those types of service model, rather. Lastly, here at Optimal, we try to take a team approach to how we manage all of our clients. Upon intake, you're not only introduced to your CCS, but also their direct supervisor who is there as an additional resource. We also have a PSC, a peer support coordinator position, which is essentially an in-between position between the CCS and the supervisor, who's there solely to support the CCS and ensure that all of our clients' needs are being met. You'll have these three people as your support system with Optimal. So if you ever had trouble getting in touch with your CCS for any reason, you know exactly who else you can contact, and they'll be able to assist you in anything that you need. So those are just kind of some of the things that I think set Optimal apart. But if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to ask them away or put them in the chat.
Thank you, Sherwood. Yeah, everyone's going to have a chance to talk with all these folks when we're all finished getting these brief presentations. All right. All right. The next one we're going to talk to is Muna from Service Coordination.
I'm trying to unmute myself. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, you loud and clear. You sound great.
Good evening. This is Mona Elias Abbas. I'm from Service Coordination. I'm not going to repeat everything because I think we all do the same thing. One of the things that sets us apart from other coordination agency is we are the largest, we're the biggest, we have, and the oldest. We've been in existence since in the 90s. We work with all the area counties. We work everywhere except Eastern region, which the health department does the coordination services. We just like Optimal Care said, we have an enhanced GTY checklist. Once someone is determined eligible by DDA, we will be the ones going out every quarter to talk with the person to see what their needs are, especially when they turn at 18 years old. We'll do the paperwork to start the TY process. We work very closely with Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and most of the other county transition facilitators at the different schools. We do monitoring. We attend IEP meetings. We also encourage the process of completing financial services such as medical assistance, trust funds, the ABLE programs, and other trust agencies. We as we prepare for the TY process, we want to also ensure that other resources are applied for, such as mobility. Now agencies no longer want to transport individuals to their programs. We make sure that the person has mobility certification so that when they start day programs, they can access transportation. We work very closely with families. We work closely with other services like DOS, Division of Rehabilitation Services. For individuals that need additional employment support, we help them connect to DOS. There are so many other natural resources that we will help the person connect to. One of the good things about service coordination is, as large as we are, we work with all communities, and all the individuals that we work with have service coordinators working in their communities. So we are very specialized in the different communities that we work with. Um, we will provide services for individuals at home through SDS, self-directed services, or traditional managed services, which is through a provider. So whatever the services the person wants, we will be able to provide those services by connecting them to what they have in the community. I do not think that what I will say next hasn't been said by the other CCS, because we are all through the same licensing agency, which is DDA. But I always say, like someone from Baltimore County Public Schools will say, as your child is getting ready to graduate from school, make the resource coordinator your best friend. We are your best friends. We want to work with you. We want to do what's best for your loved ones, and we'll do the best we can. We'll help you connect with DDA. We'll do the application to DDA. We will do other resources for you. We'll connect you to whatever will make life comfortable, whatever will make life meaningful as your son or daughter graduates from school. So we are your friends here.
Yes, I think it's an important relationship that you can forge, and you should be comfortable with the person that you're working with. We have one more agency. I'm not sure if they're here tonight. It's Total Care. Is Amber or somebody from Total Care here? Perhaps not. So I will just kind of introduce Total Care. Is an agency that I believe originated in the southern region of Maryland, but now they work throughout Maryland, doing the same kind of services that you've heard about throughout this session. You know, everyone gets the same license through DDA and the same kind of trainings through DDA, and you can choose any of these agencies and work with them. And if you're not happy, you try to work it out. And if you want to try a different agency, you always have that right also. But the initial choice is probably a little mysterious for people because they haven't had the chance to meet with people. So I will ask you if you want to unmute yourself and just ask the question, or if you want to put a question in the chat box and I will read it out. Or if you have, anything you want to say to the CCSs who are here today, just about anything. So please do.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Yes, my name is Ramon, and my son has autism, and he is 13 years old. I'm sorry, I just logged in, so I missed a lot of the information. Is this for transitioning services once they graduated high school, or was there anything talked about before high school?
Well, does anybody else want to take that question? I would say once you apply to DDA for eligibility, then you have your eligibility established. And then when your child gets closer to exiting school, whether that's at 18 or 21, that's when the CCS would become involved with your family to help you make those plans and get the funding sources that are going to be required for adult services. Does anybody else want to add to that? Who's here?
Actually, we do work with minors. We work with all ages. We work with a 2-month-old, a 5-year-old, 18, 99 years old. So you should apply to DDA right now.
That was my next question. So now that he's 13, it's still good to fill out the application now?
Yes.
Okay.
It's never too early to submit your application. The difference that will happen is the eligibility criteria will be different. Generally, at the age of 13, DDA will not grant your son or daughter. Did you say son or daughter?
Son.
Your son, DDA generally will not determine your son as DD eligible. At this time, they will say your son is support only. support only means that the person is only get limited services. But as he gets older to the age of 18, your school system will provide additional information for DDA, such as the psychological evaluation, the IEP notes to DDA, so that they can change his eligibility to DD, which is developmentally disabled. Someone who is developmentally disabled has more services and more funding than someone who is support only. Support only means lesser services. So at that time, as your son reaches the age of 18, your school system will provide that information to DDA to justify the need to move from SO, which is support only, to developmentally disabled, which is DD. And that will allow you to get that we're talking about tonight.
So what you want to do is go to your local regional office and fill out an application. They will send somebody around to do a comprehensive assessment. Once that comprehensive is done, they will send that interviewer will send it to the DDA office. The DDA office will then send you out a letter whether or not you are eligible for services for DDA. If your son is eligible for services for DDA, you get to choose an agency, a CCS agency that will oversee your son until he's of the age where he can apply finishing up of the DDA services. So now it's to get started on that, to make sure he's already got his foot in the door and everything else that he needs, because I do understand that the schools now are kind of pushing the kids out by 18 years of age, not waiting until they're 21 years old. So getting these services as soon as possible, making sure that he's got his foot in the door at the age of 18. You're working on the SSI, getting him SSI, and making sure that this is on a roll. So when DDA says yes, we can add him and start the application process, you're ready to go.
Okay, I'll do that. He does already have SSI.
Oh, perfect. When he's turning 18, it'll be based on something else. It'll be based on just him, not you. So there will be a change when he's 18.
Okay.
And you can always get your application online too, so you don't have to physically go to the DDA office. I'm not sure there's anyone there to receive you, but you can always go online to print out the application.
Yes, I can do that. I can download it and print it out. That's not a problem.
it's much preferred to do it all electronically these days, I think. And I will just say, as Baltimore County, we have lots and lots of kids who stay in school until 21, where I don't think we're pushing them out if they need to be in school. So I know what you're trying to say, though.
It's open trend. Now, I've had quite a few districts that are saying, well, he can leave at 18 instead of encouraging them to stay until they're 21. So,
okay.
That's a question.
Yeah, hang on one second. I think we had some hands raised. I just want to make sure that we're addressing everybody. Is that Ms. Graves? Ms. Groves? Dorothea? And you're muted if you're talking.
Yeah, can you be in a waiver and DDA?
Yeah, the waiver is what DDA is funded with. So yes. If you're in the autism waiver, that lasts while you're in school, but after that, it gets transferred into an adult waiver through DDA.
So should you sign up for DDA while you're in the autism
You can be on the wait list for DDA, yes, and that won't affect your autism waiver, for sure.
Okay.
And if you're in a Baltimore County public school, you have a transition facilitator who will help you with DDA applications and contacting DDA on your behalf. You're not alone in this. If you're in a non-public school, there's usually transition staff in every non-public school that I know of too for high school students. So find those people if you don't know who they are. And I'm going to get to you, Ms. Delaney also, but I just wanted to let you know, if you want me to send you a copy of this, these slides tonight, just so you have like a visual for remembering who said what, put your email address in the chat box, and I'll send that out to you. All right. Okay,
Thank you.
Miss Delaney, you had a hand up.
Can I add more to what she just said?
Oh, okay.
It's usually much easier when someone is in another waiver, for example, the autism waiver, to get into the DDA waiver, which means your CCS is only completing the short version of the medical assistance form, compared to someone who is coming without any involvement in any waiver. So it helps move the process faster when we have to do the division of eligibility services application, which is the medical assistance, which means it shows that the individual already has medical assistance. And since it's the same medical assistance that we are all using, it's much easier because the person is already in there. We are not starting from scratch. So it's very good. So keep your child in autism waiver till we start working with them.
I agree. The process is much more seamless if you have already in a waiver. But if you're not already in a waiver,
We'll
your
still
CCS
help.
is there to help get you in.
So do you put that on the application or something? That you're in a waiver?
No.
Yeah, the DDA application will ask you what other services you're already receiving, but that doesn't affect your eligibility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so Ms. Shannon Delaney, I promise you, we're getting to you now.
I just have a quick question. I actually missed the other class on Tuesday, and just was wondering if you guys are going to hold these classes again, or no? Is these the only ones?
I'm not sure. You were a little fuzzy at the first part, so I'm not sure you were asking.
Oh, I was saying, like, I missed the class on the 22nd, so I just was wondering if you guys are going to do these over or not.
Well, we're recording them, so we're gonna the recordings of our meetings are going to be available on the Department of Special Ed website under transition resources. Okay. So you can read them.
I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No
I wasn't the facilitator for that meeting on the 22nd, but I do believe that was recorded. Okay. And that was like more of an overview of the transition process. And there are opportunities.
Yeah, I don't really know the whole process with that. I know someone reached out to me because I know I have a kid with an IEP, and they reached out to me and I said I was interested. So that's why I was asking, because I missed the first class, and I was just like, oh, let me see if I can see what was going on in the first class to kind of understand what's going on with this one. So that's all. Thank you.
All right.
Someone just asked me a question directly.
I see that. Yeah. So the average caseload for service coordination.
24 to 25.
Okay.
We have tremendously reduced all the assignment lists so that we can work more with the individuals that we provide services for. So it's average 24 to 25.
I'm gonna thank you, Muna. I'm gonna go through the chat box right now because there are questions in there that people have put in there. So are the services income based? Not exactly, but you don't want to have more than $2,000 in assets or income or anything in a bank account in your student's name, in your child's name, because that will kick them out of eligibility for Medicaid services. So if you have more questions about that, please ask for more clarification. But is there anybody else want to say anything more about that?
And that's why, as the CCS, we will advise that as we begin working with you, we will direct you to other financial resources, such as I said earlier, the trust funds, the able account, so that you can have a separate account that DDA or any governmental agency will not ask for the statement.
The family's income will not keep someone from having services, just anything in their own name.
Exactly.
Okay. Matt Burke, you sent in your choice letter and you didn't get a response yet. Did you send it by mail or did you send an email? So if you don't want to unmute yourself and respond, I will say that emailing the eligibility department at DDA is a good way to nudge them. So that is eligibility. I'll write it in the chat box. DDA, you would email eligibility.cmro maryland.gov. And I just put that email address in the chat box, and they ought to be able to tell you when it's been decided. And you should be hearing from your choice too. I think emailing them tends to get a quicker response, just in my experience. I see a lot of people putting in mail. Okay, weeks ago. Yeah, I think there, since the pandemic, the DDA office does not have a lot of people in it at any one time that I've seen. I mean, I'm not DDA, I can't really say, but it seems to me that they have a lot of mail that takes them a long time to get through if it's on paper. If you email the documents to them, I think they come up faster. But Mr. Burke, if you have a transition facilitator that you know in your school, that person can help you with that communication piece also. But there's no reason you can't do it yourself too. But if you're not getting the response, that's frustrating, and I understand that. So you're not alone in handling that.
Also with that, when DDA does receive your choice letter and your actual decision of case management agency, typically they assign it to the agency same day. And then the case management agency actually only has 3 days to establish contact with you. So if you haven't heard from them yet, that means DDA hasn't gotten that choice letter yet. So definitely follow up via email, or you can even call DDA directly just to ensure they've gotten that, or you can just make a copy and send that to them via email, or give them that choice over the phone, and they can just do it manually like that.
Right. And everybody who's putting your information in the chat box, I will make sure that you get a copy of this presentation tonight. Okay. Any more questions for our presenters? It's kind of cool to have you guys all here at the same time. Okay, Ms. Groves.
I didn't have any more questions.
Oh, okay. Your hand was just up from before, I guess. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out like that. Anything else that we haven't covered yet? I see a couple hands up, and I'm not sure if we've answered that.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So I have been having this back and forth, I guess, of mixed emotions with this application for, I want to say honestly, over a year. And I've worked with, my son attends a non-public school in Baltimore County. And I spoke with one of the coordinators there who kind of, helped me with the application. I had filled it out on my own. It is it seems simple, but yet, not so simple process.
Yep.
And, the back and forth you get when you call to how to apply by mail, in person, and email. And I guess my question is there someone in DDA that can actually help you, go over it before you submit it? Because ultimately you don't want this application to go through and then you did something wrong and now you're hurting the services for your child down the road.
The application does seem kind of simple, but confusing if you've never seen it before. For those of us who've done it a lot of times, we're like, okay, we can do it with our eyes closed. But so that's why I think reaching out to somebody at your school who has a lot of experience with this is a good idea. I don't think DDA is going to help you word your application a certain way because they don't know your child,
Gotcha.
But what I do know is that if you submit the DDA application and a psychological assessment and the most recent IEP all together as a packet, that's what they really want to see.
Okay.
Okay.
And can I just add that I think DDA absolutely cannot help you with that because it might be a conflict of interest. It might seem that they're influencing it. But I will say that I have heard a DDA employee speak to parents in the past when they were allowed to. And she would always say that when you're asking the government, we all like to think of our children in terms of their strengths. But when you're asking the government to help support you, you have to make sure that they understand the true supports that your child needs. So this is not the time to talk about what they can do. It's probably a better time to focus on what they need help doing as you fill that out. So I would keep that in mind as you fill that out.
Yeah, and not what they're like on their very finest day sometimes. So you need to be honest about sometimes, what they really struggle with, and how they would need help on that hard day, and in addition to an easy day.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan, for saying that. And the same will go for when the assessment is done at the house or wherever it is. The CCS will do the first assessment, which is more like a question and answer. And when I go to people, I say, I'm not prying at their personal lives, but I want to know what the bad day looks like. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me the good stuff. I don't want to know that. Let's keep that for when it's in services. We'll talk about how things have been going smoothly and all that. But I want to know what is bad, what's not going right, what's not working. Because we are not painting a rosy picture. You're not going to get anything from that. So you want to, and I like to prepare parents or caregivers on what to expect when I come for the assessment. So don't tell me how well behaved the person is when he has some behavioral issues, when there are concerns at home with taking care of your loved ones. Thank you, Susan, for mentioning it.
And does everyone know what Mona means by the comprehensive assessment? Once you are applied, DDA will send a CCS agent from any one of the agencies. It's very arbitrary. It just because you're assigned somebody from SCI or Total Care doesn't mean that's who you have to pick. And they will do an in-person kind of evaluation, because paper can only tell so much about an individual. And then that is submitted to DDA, and that kind of moves the timeline along.
Right.
Also, we want to also know about your struggles with your family member. What kind of struggles are you having? Or do you have any health issues? That will all get a play in determining eligibility as well, and how fast they move along in this process.
Jennifer, thanks for saying that. Yeah, there is a section on the DDA application that asks specifically about the health and the situation of the caregiver, and the age. Also, they wanted your age, because if, say, you're a grandparent raising a child, and I'm getting older, I'm slowing down, I would have a hard time keeping up with a busy child with autism, or any busy child, really. So I would want DDA to know that about me, that I'm, I may need some extra help sooner than if I were 35 years old,
And we all would like our doctors to write letters for us, but they're very busy. I have always asked my doctor, drafted letters for my doctors, and said, please feel free to edit this, but if you'll put it on your letterhead and sign it so I can put it with my application. I've never had a doctor refuse to do that, and I think that helps a great deal also.
It does.
Great points.
Yeah, if I could add one thing to the application question. I personally do comprehensive assessments. I've done hundreds of them. And I've many a time seen applications come through where it's just name and contact information and no supporting documents. Those applications still come through. We still get assigned them, and we still do an assessment, and we help you gather those documents. We find those details, and we kind of walk you through actually getting to that eligibility stage. So I wouldn't overthink the application too much, because once that application is received, that's when you're going to have someone contact you to do that assessment. That's where you really get into the details, the meat and potatoes of it, I would say. So I wouldn't put it off too long. If anything, just put it in what you have and what you have handy, and then you'll have a little bit more time once you have that comprehensive assessment set up and scheduled.
Yeah, make sure your contact information is correct on the application, and DDA wants to see the social security number too, and a signature, I guess. But yeah, the other stuff they'll get into with you and at the comprehensive assessment time.
Right. Just to add to that, with the comprehensive assessment, like another thing that issues that usually the CCS come across is usually the documentation piece. We try to assist family to gather documentation. Like if you give us the information and we have consent to reach out for like the psychological evaluation, any adaptive testing will be helpful. And also if the need that is is on the autism spectrum, like any assessment of autism spectrum disorder, they're going to be helpful. IEP, without those documentation, and if for any reason we're not able to get those documentation, sometimes we have to reach out to the school to gather information that will support the application. And if we're not able to, for some reason, maybe because family member is not, cooperating, or we're not able to get, contact or how to reach out to the school, sometimes the application comes back, being denied because of insufficient, documentation. But we try our best to support family, and because we also have a time frame as well. So we have a time frame to complete this whole process and submit our reports back to DDA.
And parents, this is the time, we don't like to answer our phones if we don't know the phone number, but you could be having anybody call you these days from DDA or for the comprehensive assessment, and they will try 3 times. And if they can't reach you in 3 times, then they have to file a no contact form. So this is the time, just answer the phone. It's hard, but you need to do it.
Absolutely it is. And on top of documents you need the IEP, and you need a psychological assessment, or you need, as for the autistic waiver, you need something from Kennedy Kruger or something that is going to help support that. So make sure you have those documents. When that person comes out to do the comprehensive assessment, you're ready to go. So we don't have to go looking for it. So the fastest we do it and get it sent into DDA, the faster you can move ahead with your services.
Right.
And I will just highlight that your transition facilitator, your transition people in your schools can help you with those documents. If any school-based documents, they're yours, but sometimes you don't have them on hand, and your school will have them.
I have a question. Someone had mentioned something about, CCS calling up to 3 times. If not, it's basically the application is kind of canceled out. So what if, do they leave a contact number for the parent to call back? Or is it just basically they call, if they don't answer, that's pretty much it?
No, ma'am.
They should, and I don't want you to think that disqualifies you. They'll send you a certified letter before.
Right.
So
So
there is no time.
for our agency, what we do is we call 3 times. We will send a certified letter. If it's been returned as not received, sometimes we'll stop by at the house and leave our card. After all of that attempts, if we still can't reach the family, we have to let the DDA know, because if we leave the individual on our roster, the application will be abandoned, and it's going to be like non-compliance on our end. So we have to let the DDA know this person is a no contact after a certified letter, and after visiting the address, making sure that there's still somebody that lives there. We leave our card. If nobody reached out back to us, then that's when we determine that it's a no contact.
And there is not a place on the DDA application to note what school your child attends, but you might want to put it on there under other people to contact. There's a section where you can put other contacts, just so that's if you move or something and DDA is trying to get a hold of you and they don't have your contact information anymore, at least they have school or somebody that may be able to track you.
Yeah. Alternate contact is very helpful. Sometimes I've reached people through their doctors. I've been able to contact the family through their, grandparents or something. So when you just make sure you put like other contact numbers, so that way, one way or the other, will be able to reach you.
I will tell you, I get calls, multiple calls every week from CCS saying we can't find this person. So I know that they're really diligently trying to find them before they close them out.
Right.
And they're not closed out. They're just sent back as a no contact, and the application stays in the file.
Right. Especially when the application comes in with an IEP already attached, we usually contact the school to get a, updated, contact from the family.
Yes.
Other comments? Go ahead. Did I just cut somebody off?
No, I just was saying, I think there's some raised hands in.
Yes, about 3 raised hands.
Yes.
Yep, Miss Kelly.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking me. I am probably one of the few people that are on this call that's just actually somewhat starting the process. I'm not really sure if my son is eligible for DDA. He's 18. He's a senior in high school. Actually, just diagnosed last year, junior year, through the school psychologist of being on the spectrum of autism, more of what used to be known as the Asperger's end of the spectrum, if that makes sense. Like I said, this is all a process. He was diagnosed with ADHD when he was little, and his pediatrician and other therapists kept saying he doesn't seem to fit that profile. So that's what I mean by it's kind of the whole process and the services and getting him linked is relatively new. The questions I have is he is connected with doors, and I haven't heard anybody say anything about doors on this call, and forgive me if I just didn't hear it, but if he has received services through doors, the question is whether or not he's eligible. One, his assessment for his IEP being upgraded was actually based on the classification of his diagnosis through the school psychologist. The question I have is, does he have to have a diagnosis through an independent doctor that's not affiliated with the school in order for anyone to actually acknowledge his diagnosis? That's the first question. Okay.
Okay, so speaking from a school system point of view, we very typically submit school-based psychological assessments, and people get, they are adequate for the needs of eligibility for DDA. If your son is a higher functioning person, you need to really kind of prove that he needs to have lifelong supports in order to live independently in his community. That he won't be able to make it without those supports. So that's really what DDA is for people. Okay, and DOORS is more of a shorter term service to help people get competitive employment. So that's what DOORS is for. They exist so that people with disabilities can work, and their services are time limited.
Right. So,
and the eligibility for one does not affect the eligibility for the other, but they may use the same documents to establish eligibility. So some other CCSs might want to talk about that. I think Muna did talk about working along with DOORS, and I think everybody is well aware of DOORS services.
Right.
So in terms of the transitioning, from what I'm hearing and what I think I'm processing what you're saying, as far as the DDA is concerned, if he is considered independent and enough to live on his own, that has to be determined. But how do you all determine that? And should I assume, since he's high functional, actually in the process of applying for college, does that automatically mean that he does not qualify for DDA if he's a college student?
It doesn't mean that. It depends really on what his functional needs are. I think you have a kind of a higher hill to climb to make the case for his needing ongoing supports. But really, that's one of the eligibility requirements of DDA, that they exhibit a need for ongoing lifelong supports.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, DDA is looking at the functionality level of the individual. A person who graduates school at 18 will not get the governor's Transitioning Youth Initiative funding. The funding is reserved for individuals graduating from schools at the age of 21, must be DD eligible, must be receiving supported employment, meaningful day, self-directed like we have them now, and exiting from school. That's the definition of the GTYI funding. So someone who decides to leave school with their friends at 18, or they don't want to continue the next 3 years, will not be eligible for this funding. They will have to wait till they turn 21. So if your son decides to leave school at the age of 18, we will advise that he receives DOORS funding. And at 18, we can, if it's found eligible for DDA services, we will get him into services.
Okay.
Apply for the autistic waiver it's good until he is 21 years of age. So this way he can receive some services until he's DDA starts. But usually DDA is ID, intellectual disability, along with another diagnosis such as autism, epilepsy, and things like that. Usually that's what they look at. So like Anne was saying, you have a hard role because somebody who is like your son, he's very, very, he just lacks the social skills to get around.
Exactly.
So
that's exactly it. Yes.
But you got to prove to DDA that his need is just as important, and he's going to need that assistance for the rest of his life. So you have a hard role to climb because you're missing that one factor of ID.
Okay, that's fine. I just, like I said, I wasn't sure since this is relatively new for me. I will say this though, I'm glad that I'm on this meeting because no one has said anything to me about an autism waiver. So I definitely need to follow up with what that is and I guess apply for that for him because no one's mentioned autism waiver to me at all.
Did you say your son was 18 though?
Yes.
I think the autism waiver is unlikely to be approved for him.
It's a long waiting list, Ms. Kelly, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long wait.
Okay, well then I guess he won't qualify for that either. Okay.
But really, lean on your transition people at your school because there are other services out there. There's independent living groups that may be, there's adult autism resource groups. There's groups that may really be helpful to you that maybe aren't this wide-ranging funding source we're talking about, but other things. And we only have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure everybody's question. Yeah, you're welcome. So, Ms. Yifa?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. I have two questions. One, my son is 17, and last year I've been told I got approval letter for eligibility from DDA. And from this discussion, it got me thinking, like, is there anything that I have to do or through my service coordinators or just wait? Because they mentioned that his benefits kicks in when he turns 18. So is there anything do I have to do now? Because I see a lot of turnover, the social worker and staff, when I'm trying to reach out to them, I don't get back quite frequently. Then that I learned that they're no more there. So is there anything what I have to do? That's one question. And the other one is I recently he's approved for autism waiver, and with that there is a medical benefit, but I did not get any medical cards or any instruction where should I contact and stuff. I called Department of Education to request this information, and I haven't got anything. And is there anyone should I talk to about this? That's the question.
Okay. So your first question, if you already have a CCS working with you,
yes,
then but there's a lot of turnover. I would suggest you always know who the supervisor is of that person, so that you can go to the supervisor and have maybe a little more continuity. I think that every agency, every school really fights with turnover. It's just a fact of the beast of the work. And everyone tries to retain staff, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So somebody else might want to speak to that question about how to make sure that you're getting the seamless services.
Yeah, just to clarify, that the turnover is not from service coordinator side, from DDA side. Yeah.
Okay. Also, if you're in the autism waiver, I will just put a shout out for the service that you are eligible for usually, which is adult life planning. Which I think is a really good service that autism waiver provides. So you can go to your autism waiver service coordinator and ask about that service if you want. It's a very targeted kind of help for you, like another person to help you with through the process.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're muted, Ann.
Yeah. Any other questions from anybody? We're right at our time for tonight, and I do want to let our speakers, who so generously gave us their time tonight. So if you do have questions that weren't answered tonight, please put it in the chat box. I will try to get the answer to you, but I do want to let people go at the time that I promised them they could go. So this was a really great discussion. I love that we had all these people thinking hard about planning for their kids' futures. So thank you for participating, and I hope it was valuable to you. And if you gave me your email address, then you'll get this presentation in your email box. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.